She left before the receipt cleared. At 12:04 a.m., I transferred $42,716.89 to settle Sophia's debts, payday loan sharks, credit card collectors, her mother's hospital bills. By 6:27 a.m., she was trending on social media in a designer gown, kissing Adam Merrill, banking heir, third-generation billionaire, and newlywed husband to the woman who called me her lifeline just 12 hours earlier. I didn't even get a thank you. The same Sophia who broke down in my arms the night before, mascara bleeding down her face as she gasped out that she couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't even breathe knowing the debt was eating her alive, was now on a yacht in Saint-Tropez. Smiling, holding a glass of imported champagne, wearing a ring that cost more than my entire apartment complex. Scarlett called me around 7:03 a.m. I hadn't slept. "You saw it?" she asked softly. "Yeah." I stared at the phone screen. I had the photo burned into my brain now. Sophia's eyes locked with Adam's, that exact head tilt she used to give me, her caption under the photo, "Sometimes peace looks like surrender, I'm finally choosing me." She didn't choose me, she chose wealth, she chose status. I didn't reply to Scarlett, just lowered the phone, got dressed in silence, and walked straight to the building next to mine, one that had no nameplate, no business hours, and no public records. I rang the private elevator with my fingerprint. It scanned me and the doors slid open with a soft hiss. 15th floor, frosted glass, a single name on the plaque inside the office, J. Mendez Holdings, mine. The office lights flickered to life automatically. On the far wall hung a single locked safe behind a matte painting. I keyed in the code, 118, her birthday. The lock clicked. I pulled out a crimson folder with one tab sticking out. Contingency, Sophia. Yes, I had prepared for this. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I had seen what money did to people. Sophia was soft-hearted, emotional, loyal when she wanted to be, but easily swayed. Her friends called her a romantic. I knew better. She was a dreamer in a world that devoured soft dreams. Inside the folder were the silent clauses I had built over years, non-disclosure documents she had unknowingly signed while filing fake rental paperwork, the collateral transfer she gave me when I first paid off her boutique's overhead, and most importantly, the operating license of Merrill Bank's under-the-table crypto investment wing, co-signed by a private investor, under the initials SRM. She never knew I owned that license. She never even asked who saved her store from collapse that summer when Adam's hedge fund stepped in. It wasn't Adam, it was me. At 8:12 a.m., I texted Scarlett again. "Call the board, use clause 3, freeze the assets by noon." Her response came in one word, copy. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the photograph of Sophia and Adam as it kept flashing across business feeds. "The Merrill-Lowell merger sealed today through sudden marriage," the headline blared. Young banking mogul Adam Merrill ties the knot with rising fashion brand owner Sophia Lowell in a surprise yacht wedding. Funny, she didn't even use my last name. I stared at the image until my screen dimmed. Not out of heartbreak, but calculation. I wasn't some man sobbing over a lost love. I wasn't just the boyfriend who got used and tossed aside like a receipt. I was the reason her debts were gone. I was the reason Adam ever found her brand credible, and I was the reason she'd wake up tomorrow wondering why half his assets were frozen. My phone buzzed again, this time, a blocked number. I answered. "Yes?" A pause, then her voice, tentative. "Jose?" "Sophia," the same voice that had begged me for help just a day ago. They murmured, "I don't want to owe anyone else, only you." Now shaking, quiet, unsure. "Did you do something?" I stood by the window, watching cars flow through the city like a pulse. "I did. I helped you. Again." Silence. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. "You didn't hurt me," I replied calmly. "You taught me where to never invest again." "Jose, I'm not the man you run to anymore." She didn't hang up. She waited, maybe for me to ask her why. But I already knew. She sold me for luxury. I sold my silence for power. The only difference, I never pretended to love her for it. My name is Jose Alvarez, 31 years old, and I've spent the last decade building my empire quietly, one silent acquisition, one disguised investment, one anonymous favor at a time. You wouldn't find my name on any Forbes list, and that's deliberate. My wealth isn't measured in headlines, it's measured in leverage, power, control. I grew up with nothing in my hands except responsibility, a mother who worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table, and a father who left the moment he realized dreams don't pay bills. My education came from watching eviction notices pile up and understanding that desperation is always 2 weeks away when you don't have money. So, I built something different, not just a business, but a structure. Invisible ownerships, shells within shells, brands run by figureheads while I sat 3 layers back. Jose Alvarez didn't sign checks or appear at conferences. He whispered strategies to men in suits who shook hands with cameras. I learned early, if they don't know your name, they can't destroy your name. But then came Sophia. She was the one mistake I let walk past all my defenses. We met 4 years ago at a mutual friend's art showcase in downtown Austin. She wasn't trying to impress anyone that night, hair in a messy updo, fingers smudged with paint, laughing too loudly at a joke no one else understood. I watched her. From across the room, she caught me staring once and didn't look away. That was the first time I blinked in years. Sophia had a charm that wasn't deliberate. It was chaotic, unplanned, like everything in her life. Her boutique was hanging by a thread. Her landlord wanted to double rent. She had 3 employees and no bookkeeping experience. But her art, stunning, raw, textured like her, she could layer trauma and joy on a canvas in a way that made you forget you were bleeding. She told me once she didn't believe in safe love. If it's safe, it's not love, it's a transaction, she had said. Ironically, she accepted more of my transactions than anyone else. I started helping her in small ways, quietly, an anonymous grant that paid 3 months' rent, a licensing contact for one of her collections. Eventually, she figured out it was me. Instead of being angry, she cried. Said no one had ever supported her without asking for anything back. I didn't ask for anything because I was already giving everything. We weren't loud in love. There were no public couple posts, no staged dinner shots. It was quiet gesture. I would leave notes in her sketchpad when she had artist's block. She would cook the same burnt rice every week and ask me to lie about it tasting better. She hated birthdays, but remembered mine down to the time I was born. She met Scarlett on my birthday, in fact. Scarlett had been my right hand for 6 years, business coordinator, systems analyst, and the only person who truly knew what I was worth. Sophia was intimidated by her at first. She told me she felt like Scarlett looked at her like an open equation, like she was calculating when I'd stop funding Sophia's life and return to real priorities. But Scarlett never judged Sophia. If anything, she wanted me to be happy. Even when she didn't trust Sophia's smile. The thing is, I did. I trusted her enough to pay her debts. The first time, it was a $5,000 bailout from a credit card that she swore was a mistake. The second time, she had backed a friend's failed investment and didn't want to ruin their friendship by suing. The third time, her mom was sick. Each time, I told myself, love doesn't keep score, but love does leave receipts. And I kept every one. Sophia never asked about where the money came from. Never wondered how I could drop 10 grand on a Tuesday night without blinking. She thought I owned a mid-level marketing agency that did well. I never corrected her. It was easier that way. We lived in a modest condo in the city. Nothing flashy. She designed the interior herself, clay vases, earth-tone rugs, string lights instead of chandeliers. She was an artist, she didn't need excess. Or so I thought. I started to notice it a year before she left, the way she lit up when luxury entered the room. At first, it was harmless, admiring a friend's diamond-studded watch, trailing her hand across a velvet car seat, staying longer at boutique launches than necessary. Then it became quieter. She began comparing. Whispering things like, if only we had a place with an upstairs view, or, you work so hard, you should really drive something that reflects that. It wasn't for me, it was for her. I ignored it, wrote it off as harmless fantasy. Who doesn't daydream bigger? But then Adam Merrill showed up. He came to one of her pop-up shows through a connection I didn't even realize I had made. One of the foundations I funded had promoted Sophia's brand. He complimented her immediately, bought 3 canvases in cash, took her card, and he kept coming back. Sophia told me he was a supporter. She didn't even use the word client. Supporter. Supporter. The same word she used for me. Scarlett was the first to warn me. She's spending more time with him. Then with you, she said, not as an accusation, but as a fact. Be careful, Jose. I don't like the shifts I'm seeing. But I didn't want to spy on her. I didn't want to be that man, the one who tracks his partner's location, reads her emails, second-guesses her late at night. So I said nothing. I just loved her harder. That was my mistake. The night before she left, she sobbed on the floor, said the collectors had started calling her friends, said she couldn't sleep. Said she felt ashamed, like her past was going to swallow her whole. I held her until she stopped shaking. She asked me, "Can you help just one last time?" I did, of course I did. She fell asleep in my arms. I thought that meant we were okay. I didn't know she had already said yes to Adam's proposal. Didn't know she had the wedding dress ready in the car trunk. Didn't know her friend had posted a TikTok the day before captioned, "Watch my girl go from debt to billionaire fiancé in 24 hours. Didn't know Scarlett had been the one to pull the footage and send it to me the moment it went viral. I didn't even look away from the screen when I watched Sofia kiss him on that yacht. That's who I am. Jose Alvarez. I don't cry, I act, I don't beg, I build, I don't chase, I calculate. The man she walked away from wasn't just her boyfriend, he was the hidden architect of half the investors in Adam's portfolio. And the second Sofia signed Adam's name on that marriage certificate, she unknowingly triggered a series of contracts I had buried across 6 different companies, each tied to the very empire she thought she married into. She wasn't just Adam's wife, she was now in violation of 3 clauses of my silent ownership. Now, she was my liability, and liabilities get handled. The headlines came in waves, each one slicing deeper than the last. From debt to dynasty, how local artist Sophia Lowell landed the banking world's most eligible bachelor overnight. Inside Adam Merrill's surprise wedding, who is the woman who won his empire? Sources confirm, Merrill Group plans full creative acquisition of the Lowell Art Collective. The morning Sophia married Adam, I was still her listed emergency contact. By noon, her name was scrubbed from every file tied to me. Scarlett sat across from me in my glass-walled office, tablet in hand, scrolling silently through a dozen financial networks. She looked up, finally, her voice clipped but calm. The Merrill Foundation just absorbed Lowell Collective as a gift to his new bride. They're moving her boutique downtown. She's already signed exclusive rights to use her name across their luxury brand line. She sold her name? I asked, more curious than surprised. Scarlett nodded. And everything tied to it. That included the gallery I helped renovate, the brand assets I had protected under shell cores, even her signature color palette, which I had copyrighted for her before she even thought of merchandising. All gone, handed over to Adam like a wedding dowry. She didn't even ask, I murmured. She didn't even think, Scarlett corrected. I had to remind myself, this wasn't just a woman choosing a new life, this was a woman discarding every safeguard I'd built around her with surgical precision. Either she never understood what I gave her, or she never cared. Scarlett's fingers tapped rapidly across the tablet. Also, Adam's private counsel just sent a warning, says any action taken to freeze or reclaim assets would be considered harassment. Let them send a warning. I stood. They don't even know what they've touched. Scarlett raised an eyebrow. Are we moving forward? With everything. I had given Sophia 4 years. I had shielded her from consequences, from Busid. Ness predators, from bad PR. But what I hadn't protected her from, what I never saw coming, was her own ambition. Her desire to leap straight into the spotlight, even if it meant stepping over me to get there. I sat back at my desk and pulled up a folder titled, Lowell Contingencies. Buried inside were records of every silent deal I had brokered under her name, with my investment behind it. Every single agreement had a trigger clause. If ownership or usage rights shifted without my knowledge, immediate retraction and penalty could be enforced. She had unknowingly signed away power that wasn't hers to give. By 2 p.m., 4 companies pulled out of their upcoming collaborations with Merrill Group, citing internal restructuring conflicts. By 4 p.m., her artwork started quietly disappearing from the luxury hotel lobbies it had adorned for the past year. Scarlett had made the calls, no one argued. But beneath the legal maneuvering, the part that pierced deeper than any contract breach was the silence. No explanation, no apology, no goodbye. Just a wedding hashtag and a caption that made it look like I had been the storm she escaped. Sophia had always been emotional, impulsive. That's what drew me to her. She painted the way she lived, unfiltered, vivid, dangerously honest. But when Adam stepped into the picture, she began curating herself. Less laughter, more PR smiles, less mess, more polish. She'd trade her freedom for a filtered life. And maybe that was the part that hurt most, watching someone you love rewrite themselves for someone who only knew their surface. The night after the wedding, I went home in silence. Her paint-stained smock still hung on the back of our kitchen door. Her coffee mug sat in the sink, lipstick smudge fading. The apartment smelled faintly of her jasmine oil. I opened the cabinet above the stove. Her journals were gone. So was the photo of us in Tulum, our first vacation. She'd taken everything that had her name on it, and left everything that had mine. At 9:13 p.m., my phone buzzed. Scarlett had sent me something. Video attachment. Sophia Lowell. Merrill reacts to accusations of backroom branding deals. I played it. Sophia sat under stage lighting at a press conference, Adam beside her. She was composed, almost regal, like she'd spent the last 12 hours rehearsing her answers. I know people are wondering about the timing, she said softly, but my relationship with Adam is not something I owe anyone an explanation for. I've always followed my heart. A reporter asked, some say you were in a long-term relationship right before this, that he helped you financially. She paused, smiled slightly, and gave the line that cracked whatever part of me still hoped this was all a misunderstanding. I've had a lot of supporters. People like to feel important when they help others, but help doesn't equal ownership. If anyone thought otherwise, I'm sorry for their confusion. Supporters, not a partner, not boyfriend, not Jose, just someone who liked to feel important. Scarlett texted me again. Do you want to respond publicly? I stared at the screen. No, let her have her illusion. Let her dance in a palace she thinks she built alone. But something twisted deeper, not just betrayal, humiliation. That she would call me an insecure patron desperate to feel powerful, after I bled to keep her afloat. Scarlett buzzed through again. Adam just announced a new NFT drop under Sophia's art line. He's digitizing her early work and auctioning it. My blood ran cold. Her early work? Scarlett nodded. The collection we archived, the pieces that were never released publicly. How did he get them? Storage unit records, under her name. They're scanning the originals today. That collection wasn't just her art, it was ours, private works she had created during our hardest days. After her first miscarriage, after her mom's stroke, after my accident. These weren't just images, they were memories only. We shared. Intimate moments expressed in brushstrokes. They weren't meant for the world. She sold them anyway. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark and stared at a canvas she had left unfinished, just a blend of charcoal and cream swirls. She once said it reminded her of how I held her when she was afraid. Now it just looked like smoke. I opened the file again. The clause was still there. Section 4.4. In the event of unauthorized commercial use of archival materials, all rights revert to the initial investment owner. That was me. Sophia might have married into wealth, but she had no idea how much of that wealth I still owned from the inside. Scarlett called again the next morning. Jose, there's something else. What now? She filed a restraining notice. Her voice was hesitant. Against you. My hands went still. She says you're trying to sabotage her new marriage, that you've been threatening her brand partnerships behind the scenes. Scarlett continued. We both know it won't hold in court, but the media spin is already out. They're painting you as bitter, possessive, that you can't let her go. It didn't even make me angry anymore, just hollow. She wasn't just erasing me, she was rewriting me into the villain. The man who helped her survive debt was now the monster trying to ruin her success. I sat in silence as Scarlett finished. I can pull the PR team, put out a statement. No, I said. Don't. Jose. I said no. I stared out the window. If she wants to rewrite history, let her finish the book. Scarlett was quiet for a moment. Then, do you still want to go through with phase 2? I didn't answer immediately. The air was thick. Then, yes. Understood. Her voice was steel. She won't see it coming. The human body can endure broken bones, ruptured tissue, even betrayal in the bloodstream, But what it cannot survive, not without changing shape, is erasure. That's what I felt, in every slow hour after Sophia married Adam. Not heartbreak, not rage, just the slow erosion of meaning. I didn't leave my apartment for 3 days, not because I was hiding, but because everything outside had her fingerprints. The art cafe on 4th Street, where she used to sketch strangers and pretend their lives were movie plots, we used to laugh until they noticed. The corner bodega, the owner kept asking if she was sick again. Even the damn crosswalk played the beat of a song she once danced barefoot to in our living room. It was haunting, but not because she was gone. It was worse, she had made me invisible. Sophia didn't ghost me, she steamrolled me with a smile, and now the world called her brave for it. I watched the Merrill PR team work like surgeons. Her narrative was clear. She was a phoenix, a survivor, a visionary artist who escaped a controlling relationship and found clarity in luxury. I never got a chance to defend myself, they made sure of that. Scarlett called daily. I didn't answer half the time. When I did, she tried to focus on logistics, legal action, asset trails, reputation buffers, but even she couldn't hide the hurt in her voice when she mentioned Sophia. Scarlett had always seen more than she let on. She's not just greedy, she said once, she's scared of being small. Sophia used to whisper that in her sleep, I don't want to disappear. But she had no idea how cruel disappearing felt when someone else does it to you. Each night I replayed the last time we touched. Her hair still smelled like cinnamon. Her lips trembled when she said, I don't deserve you. She was right, she never did. I began opening files just to remind myself who I was. Bank accounts in Dubai, patents buried under tech labs. 22 companies, 9 licenses, 4 shells. I owned entire cities in the shadows. And yet, I couldn't stop dreaming about the look on her face the first time I kissed her in the rain. That's the problem with betrayal, it doesn't come from strangers, it wears the scent of your pillows, it knows your passwords. Some nights I wondered if she missed me, even briefly, when Adam went quiet, when the house felt too clean, when the shine of her new diamond reflected her guilt back at her. But no answer came. She had cut herself clean from me. Still, the anxiety crawled in. What if I'd pushed her too hard to be better? What if I'd given too much, and in doing so, made her feel powerless? What if love became weight? I hated myself for thinking that. Scarlett stopped by unannounced one evening, holding a flask and wearing that neutral expression she wore when she was worried. Talk, she said simply, setting the flask on my desk, or at least drink. I'm fine, I replied. You're rotting in a penthouse and checking the time on a watch you haven't wound in 2 weeks. I didn't respond. She sat down across from me. You can't let this define you. You're Jose. You rebuild, that's what you do. But I didn't think I'd have to rebuild from her, I admitted, voice low. Scarlett exhaled. That's the part that hurts most, doesn't it? You thought she was your exception. I nodded. And now she's my warning. My body was healthy, my accounts are untouched, my reputation is salvageable, but something in my soul had blistered. I had seen loyalty turn into leverage. I had watched someone I'd bleed for learn how to twist the knife and call it evolution. I didn't want revenge anymore. That would have meant I still needed her to feel it. I just wanted clarity. So I asked Scarlett to dig, not into Sophia's finances or Adam's holdings, but into Sophia's past year, her therapist appointments, her journal entries, her calls, not to weaponize, but to understand. What we found broke something open. A voice recording, sent from Sophia's old phone to a friend in February, a month before she met Adam. She was crying, desperate. He's too good to me, and I'm starting to hate that. I feel like a stray dog in a palace. Jose doesn't even blink when I fall apart. He holds me like nothing scares him, and I'm terrified that I'll never deserve that. I sat there frozen, not because she was wrong, but because she had never said that to me. Another message, later that same night. I keep dreaming that he will leave, but he never does, and maybe that's why I have to leave first. I closed the file. I couldn't listen anymore. Scarlett was quiet. She ran before you could see her break, she said softly. She broke me instead. And that was the emotional prison I lived in now, a room where love had been real, but too heavy for her to carry. Where I was the shelter she mistook for a storm. My hands never shook when I made billion-dollar decisions. But now, they trembled when I held a cup of tea in that same ceramic mug she painted 2 years ago. The next morning, I walked to the studio and picked up one of her brushes. Dried paint still clung to it. She always said "Lors never lie." So I painted. Not a masterpiece, not a revenge mural, just a storm, a swirl of ash and violet and burnt gold. What it looked like to love someone who didn't know how to stay. When I was done, I burned it, quietly, alone. Then I sent Scarlett one message. Let's finish this, but clean, no blood. Because I didn't want to hurt Sophia anymore. I just wanted her to finally see the man she walked away from. It started with a letter, handwritten, no return address. Scarlett found it in the lobby mail pile a week after our systems flagged abnormal withdrawals from Sophia's shared accounts. She opened it by protocol, assuming it was another threat or plea or publicity stunt. It wasn't. Inside was one photo. A printed still from a hospital security camera. Date stamped, time coded. A hallway corner. Sophia, alone, wearing dark glasses, no makeup, shoulders slumped. Holding a plastic sample bag labeled with a lab's name. And beneath the photo, in clean cursive ink, 5 words. You never asked. She waited. Scarlett dropped the letter on my desk. I stared at the image. I didn't speak. Jose, she said slowly, that timestamp. It's from the week after she left. The week she married Adam. I picked up the photo, zoomed in. She looked like she'd lost weight. Her wrist was bruised, her face was pale. The bag in her hand wasn't a lab sample, it was a diagnostic report. Fetal. You think she was pregnant? Scarlett nodded once. Possibly. No press mentioned it, no public story, no leaks. She may not have told Adam, or she didn't keep it. I didn't flinch, but my throat tightened. Sophia always said she wasn't ready for motherhood, that she'd ruin a child with her inconsistency, but there was a time, after a scare, 2 years ago, when I held her as she sobbed into my shirt and whispered that maybe one day she'd be brave enough. Now I wondered if she had been brave, and alone. I stared at the photo again, this time not with anger, but an old ache I thought I'd buried. What does it mean? Scarlett asked, tapping the note. She waited? I didn't know. But that night, for the first time in weeks, I looked at the woman I'd been trying to forget, and saw someone grieving too. Still, I didn't act on it, I stayed quiet. Until the next twist forced my hand. 2 days later, Merrill Bank froze a batch of anonymous offshore funds, citing a pattern of internal interference traced to a third-party controller. It was me, of course, but I had moved through ghost corporations, ones designed to never trigger alerts. This wasn't a legal freeze, it was personal. Adam had discovered me, and he didn't stop there. That afternoon, the press exploded. Anonymous source, Jose Alvarez manipulated ex-girlfriend's career for control. Sophia Merrill allegedly under surveillance before her marriage. Domestic emotional coercion, a new form of elite abuse. I scrolled through headlines like open wounds. There were quotes from close friends, all anonymous. They painted me as a recluse, a puppeteer, someone who latched onto Sophia's emotional fragility and used it as leverage, and Sophia. She released a single statement on her art page. I was not aware of how much of my life was structured around someone else's shadow. Healing is hard, but necessary. No denial, no correction, just a gentle confirmation that I was, indeed, the shadow. I wanted to hate her again, to undo the empathy I'd just begun to feel, but something didn't line up. Sophia didn't speak like that. Her press drafts were always disjointed, emotional, raw. That statement was crafted, strategic. Scarlett, I said, voice sharp, get me her original account login. She frowned. That's illegal. So is what they're doing. An hour later, she had access. Sophia hadn't posted that statement herself. The metadata led back to an IP address inside Merrill Communications HQ. Adam had written it. It was a message not just to the world, but to me. A warning. Stay away, or I'll burn what's left of her. But Adam had made a mistake. He assumed I still wanted Sophia back, that I was some jealous leftover aching to reclaim a lost prize. He didn't know what I really wanted. The truth. So I reached out to Scarlett's clean contact in diagnostics, paid twice their silence fee, asked them to look into the hospital visit, any tests, any blood work, any scans. What they found shattered the ground under my feet. Sophia had come in for prenatal testing, 7 weeks along, her records listed no emergency, no miscarriage. But 2 days later, she checked herself into a private clinic under a different name. The notes read, induced termination requested under emotional duress, and one more line, patient hesitant, accompanied by non-relative male, name listed as Adam Merrill. I couldn't move for several minutes. Scarlett sat across from me, silent. She was pregnant with my child, I said slowly, and she chose, she whispered. No, I said. She hesitated. He closed the door. I remembered Sophia's terrified eyes the night she first told me about her fears of being a mother, the way she shook when holding her friend's newborn, the way she'd said, if I do this wrong, they'll grow up broken. I had always told her, you won't do it alone, but she hadn't given me the chance. She had walked into a future of comfort and sealed it with silence, because someone else convinced her my love was a threat. That was the twist I never prepared for. Not that she left, but she broke both of us to protect what she thought was safer. Now it was war, not out of revenge, but out of truth. Sophia might never love me again, might never speak to me again. But Adam, he was done. Scarlett stood, fire in her voice. Say the word. I did. Burn every exit, quietly. We wouldn't humiliate them, we'd expose them. From the inside. The first sign of collapse came quietly. An internal audit leak from Merrill Communications. By the time their legal team scrambled to stop the press, 3 key investors had already withdrawn. On the surface, it looked like a financial hiccup. Internally, it was a bloodbath, and I had only just begun. Adam tried to stay calm. His media advisors rolled out optimistic interviews, and Sophia kept posting serene photos of art, dinners, and charitable events, desperately preserving the image of perfection. But cracks don't stay hidden forever. Especially not when you give the person you betrayed a map of every foundation you built your empire on. It was at a charity gala that everything broke. Merrill Group was celebrating their latest Art for the Future initiative. Sophia was the guest of honor. The same woman who once hated the press now smiled under crystal chandeliers, wearing an emerald gown Adam likely bow. Ought to match his new investment ring. Scarlett and I entered through the side entrance, uninvited, undetected. We weren't here to make a scene. We were here to end it. The ballroom glittered with influencers and financiers, waiters passed champagne in gold-trimmed flutes. Sophia stood on stage, delivering a speech about creative empowerment, while the Merrill logo lit up behind her. I stood at the back, watching. She hadn't seen me, not yet. But Adam had. He froze mid-conversation, jaw tightening when he spotted me across the room. He broke away from the group and made a beeline toward me. I stayed still. Jose, he greeted tightly. Bold of you to show up. Be brave of you to delete hospital records. His expression cracked. You're playing a dangerous game. So were you, until I stopped playing. He glanced around. You're going to make a scene at her event? I leaned in slightly. This isn't about her anymore. This is about you putting your hands where they didn't belong. Before he could respond, Scarlett stepped beside me, holding a slim envelope. She handed it to him without a word. Adam snatched it, opened it, and paled. Inside were copies of financial movements, money he'd funneled into Sophia's private brand using funds borrowed illegally from Merrill Group's expansion capital. He hadn't expected anyone to see it. But I had access to the back door, he just didn't know it had been mine from the start. You used her name, I said softly, to launder your own ambitions. Now you'll pay for it. Adam was sweating. This could destroy her. No, I replied, this will free her. Scarlett walked ahead toward the press booth, where microphones were being prepped for the final announcement. I followed. Then Sophia saw me. She was just stepping off the stage, smiling, graceful, glowing under the lights, until her gaze locked with mine. The smile fell. Her hands clenched slightly at her sides. She walked toward me slowly, heels clicking on marble like gunshots. Jose, she said, voice soft but brittle. What are you doing here? I held her gaze. Telling the truth. She looked to Adam, who was still clutching the envelope behind her. Her face shifted, unease creeping in. What did you do? She asked him. He tried to deflect. Nothing. He's bluffing. But she wasn't stupid, not anymore. Sophia turned to me, eyes glassy. You said you wouldn't hurt me. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to show you who's been hurting you all along. Scarlett handed the second envelope, to Sophia this time. Inside, the clinic report, the video footage, the original press release she never wrote. Sophia scanned the pages, her breathing changed, her fingers trembled. And then, in front of everyone, she stepped onto the stage again. The room quieted as she stood in front of the mic, holding the open documents like a script she didn't remember writing. She started, then faltered. She looked down, then looked at me, then Adam. I want to make something clear tonight, she said, voice shaking. The past year has been complicated. I've been painted in a lot of ways, some flattering, some not. I stayed silent because I thought peace meant pretending. She held up the document. But silence has cost me too much. Murmurs spread through the audience. She continued, stronger now. There are people in this room who know what I gave up, and there's someone who gave up everything for me. I erased him to protect an image I didn't even choose, and in doing so, I erased myself too. She looked straight at me. Jose, I lied when I said you controlled me. The truth is, I didn't know how to live beside someone who loved me without needing to own me, so I ran to someone who promised safety and called it love. Gasps echoed through he crowd. Adam stepped forward, trying to speak, but she raised her hand. I'm not finished. He froze. Sophia took a deep breath. To anyone who read headlines and thought they knew who I was, I didn't even know who I was. But I do now, and I'm not going to let anyone else speak for me again. She dropped the papers. I walked off the stage, straight toward me, face to face, inches away. I don't deserve you, she said again, tears welling. No, I agreed, but you deserve the truth. She whispered. Was it yours? Yes. Her face crumpled, but she didn't cry, she nodded. I thought so. Behind her, the room was chaotic. Reporters were swarming, executives whispering, security already pulling Adam aside. Scarlett leaned in. Merrill stocks just dropped 9% in under 20 minutes. Good, I said. Sophia took my hand. I let her. For what it's worth, she whispered, I didn't go to him for money. I went because I thought you deserved someone stronger. You were strong, I replied. You just didn't believe it. Outside, the city lights gleamed like fire. Sophia looked up at me, tired, radiant, and for the first time, real. Now what? She asked. I glanced back at the building we left behind. Now, I said, we rebuild, but this time, with nothing borrowed. The headlines the next morning didn't spare anyone. Jose Alvarez silently funded Merrill Bride's empire, then exposed the groom. Sophia Merrill breaks silence, love, lies, and the billionaire who let her fall. Alvarez destroys Merrill's takeover bid, walks away with the true crown. I read them from a hotel suite that wasn't listed in any booking system. The room overlooked the harbor. The sunrise cut clean over the waves, no filters, no facades, just raw light. Scarlett stood near the window, phone in hand. Merrill Group's down 14%. They're suspending Adam pending an ethics review. Into Oriental fraud charges are now public. I said nothing, just sipped my coffee. Sophia sat across from me, legs curled under her, wrapped in a gray cardigan. She hadn't said much since the gala. No apologies, no tears, just a quiet presence. A woman facing the wreckage of the lie she married and the man she betrayed to get there. She looked at me like she was afraid to speak. I'm not here to make you feel guilty, I said, finally. But you should, Scarlett cut in sharply, folding her arms. You nearly cost him everything, and when you couldn't face it, you let someone else write the story. Sophia met her gaze. She didn't flinch. I know. I studied her for a long time. So what now, Sophia? You came back, yes. You told the truth, yes, but that doesn't mean we snap back into place. I'm not asking you to, she said. Her voice was soft but grounded. I came because I owed it to myself to finish the story with honesty. And to you. I came because I finally stopped being afraid of the cost. I turned to Scarlett. What's the word for the Lowell brand? She raised her brow. Yours again. 3 of the partner companies severed ties with Merrill and signed back over the original rights. You could relaunch it tomorrow under your own name. I won't. Both women looked at me. I'm dissolving the Lowell line. Scarlett blinked. That was your most successful soft luxury project. You built it with her. I also buried myself under it. I don't want it anymore. I looked at Sophia. That brand was born from who you were when you didn't know what love meant. Let it die with that version of you. Sophia's lip trembled, but she nodded. I understand. I'm building something new, I said, setting down my cup. Something honest, with full transparency. A partnership model. All revenue is public, all collaboration signed by name, no shells, no secrets. Scarlett raised a brow. That doesn't sound like you. That's because I was hiding, from the press, from people, even from her. I paused. This time, I want to be visible. Sophia whispered, so people can love you fully? No, I said, so I don't love anyone halfway again. Outside, the world kept turning. Merrill Group fought to save face. Adam was nowhere to be found. His press team had gone silent after leaked footage revealed his coercion at the clinic and the financial tampering behind Sophia's name licensing. Scarlett's final blow had been a data package sent to every major news outlet, detailing the false statements, deleted posts, and surveillance footage timeline that proved Sophia had been manipulated into silence. Sophia didn't stop her. She'd only asked one thing. Don't protect me anymore. I didn't. She faced the reporters, the lawyers, the hate comments that came after. Some people still called her a gold digger. Others praised her for speaking out, but this time, she fought her own battles. I just watched from the sidelines. In the weeks that followed, I sold off 2 companies I no longer cared about and funneled the funds into a quiet foundation, the Alvarez Initiative. It was aimed at supporting artists and creators who had been exploited by corporate contracts. No one knew it was mine, except Scarlett and Sophia. One evening, I found her in the studio I hadn't entered since the day she left. She was kneeling on the floor, surrounded by blank canvases, not painting, just being. I'm not asking you to love me again, she said quietly, without looking up. But if you ever do, I'll be someone who can stand beside you now, not behind. I don't need you to stand behind me, I said. I need someone who won't disappear when I'm not bleeding for them. She finally met my eyes. I won't disappear again. Maybe she meant it, maybe she didn't, but this time, her words weren't dressed in perfume and poetry. They were naked. Honest. In the months that followed, Scarlett helped me launch a new venture, Scene, a hybrid of art, tech, and transparency. We didn't name it after anyone. We didn't put a couple's initials on the corner of the site. It was built on what came after survival. Sophia contributed a collection anonymously. I knew the strokes, but I didn't sign them, didn't promote them, didn't correct the credits. Because she needed to earn her name back, on her own. Adam, the last I heard, he fled to Switzerland. His father disowned him. The board removed him permanently. He filed bankruptcy under a private alias, but the internet never forgets. As for the club where Sophia and I first displayed her art 4 years ago, I bought the building, quietly. Then I gave it to Scarlett. She turned it into a rotating gallery for underrepresented artists. She named it the Untitled Room. Every year, on the same date, she holds a show with a single blank canvas framed in the center. No name, no plaque, no backstory, just space. And everyone knows, it belonged to a woman who once had everything, lost it all, and painted her way out anyway. Sophia never asked to be forgiven. And maybe I never truly did. But I let go. Because revenge is heavy. And love, real love, deserves clean hands.